All right, everybody, so what Nick's been working on the last couple of days is kind of one of the favorites in the shop right now. Obviously, you got a 57 Bel Air here. Nice little resto mod, very true to the original styling, which I always love, but upgraded motor, upgraded brakes, 700 R4 transmission, easy EFI, Go EFI, dual quad setup that we're gonna be working on. Car's great, hasn't ran in a while, so it needs a lot of little bitty things here and there. Check this out. You can start to see, bam, fuel system corrosion. That'll kill it real quick. Can you see down in there? Tank full of rust. Knockoff 044 style pump installed on it. It was kind of on this ugly little hanger right here. A lot of issues in this setup here. So when you feed these pumps, you have to feed them with a -10 feed. You cannot neck it down to 3/8. Obviously somebody makes the fitting for it, but that's gonna starve the pump. It's also gonna make it run really hot. I also don't think this is a 100 micron filter, so you don't want to put a small, low micron, like a 10 or a 40 micron filter in front of the pump. That's going to starve it also. So that was one of the main complaints. Was customer stated that when it did run, before he kind of got frustrated with it and let it sit for a little while, he thought it was vapor locking. Well, on return style fuel systems, vapor locking is basically non-existent. You can get cavitation in pumps and things like that, but vapor locking in the engine bay, like you would with a carbureted setup, is essentially non-existent. It's not something you never have to worry about. You can't just put fuel lines wherever you want, but because the fuel is constantly circulating through there, it's very difficult for it to get so hot that it, actually turns to vapor in the line. This is a lot of the issue right here. Pump is just going to be starving, and then you can kind of still see that this wants to go back to where it's been. That's going to be a problem, right? They did their best with the fittings off the end of the pump, but once this line started to get hot and go through a few heat cycles and stuff, it's indurated right now. It's rock hard and it's pinched. I think we went with a tanks.com tank that has a EFI pump that drops in the tank, so it looks completely factory. Has a nice in-tank 255 liter per hour submersible pump. Comes with a new sending unit. That'll help complement the gauge issue we're gonna have to diag here in a little bit, but we'll know the sending unit's money. We're gonna know the fuel's all dialed in, tank's clean. Take a look at the car a little bit. Another complaint the customer had is he said he thinks that maybe the brake fluid is boiling, and this guy's pretty mechanically inclined, so we take his word pretty well for it. We think he's got some brake issues, like a brake caliper is hanging up or something like that and boiling the fluid. So we're going through the brakes, we're readjusting everything, making sure it's all good. New fluid, doing a little bit of a flush. The reservoir was pretty filthy. Take a look inside here. We got a vintage air AC system in here we're gonna have to do a little diag and repair on, but overall, very sweet, nice interior. This car was very well restored by a Tri-5 expert. Just needs a little bit of love. The heart of the beast. Got a nice, mildly built 350 with a 700 R4 transmission, just a nice cruiser. He's got some high horsepower cars. He's got a Dodge Viper that's sitting out there. This is just a cruiser, very sentimental. This car has a lot of sentimental value to him. He belonged to his brother who has passed away, and so he just likes to hop in this car and go for a cruise. He doesn't want it to be, a world beater. It's not, trying to haul ass down the road or anything. So what we've got here is an Edelbrock intake with a Rochester 4-barrel large mounting pattern. And we have to go to the 4150 style of the Go EFI. The ones that it had on it are not compatible. Square bore 2-inch risers, and they just turned them sideways, so the bolts were actually here and here. They weren't going through the holes, so it had a pretty bad vacuum leak. It may have worked for a little while, I don't know, but we checked it and it was vacuum leaking pretty bad. What we have here is the Phytech Go EFI dual quad setup. The engine definitely doesn't need a ton of fuel. It's not a super high performance build, but this was done for aesthetic purposes, and I get it and I like it. I think it looks great. The engine bay looks great. And if you're gonna do dual quads with the EFI, it's not that bad, because the EFI, you can really set it, and it can set itself to where it really doesn't let out a lot of fuel at idle and part throttle. And you're basically just not gonna use the full potential of this, as where carburetors can be pretty difficult to get tuned right, and especially These are probably the equivalent of like a 750. You would never put two 750s on this engine. But because these can really get down to a low pulse width on the injector opening, you don't have to deliver a ton of fuel. They've got a little more adjustability in a different way than a carburetor. You've got your dual linkages here. We're gonna have to play with this a little bit and get everything kind of lined out, get our fuel system worked out. At one point, the fuel pressure was running like up to like 80 PSI on it. So we're not really sure what the deal is. We're gonna have to dig into this system a little bit. But we have a pretty good track record. A lot of these cars come in and people just want us to take them off, get rid of them, and figure out how to get back to a carburetor. And I don't think we've had to do that yet. You can get these things running right. It just takes a lot more initial setup than I think they tell you when you're buying it. That's, you know, the marketing is it's just plug and play, set it on, it learns itself, doesn't have to be tuned, and it goes. And that may work for most situations. You're gonna have to play with it a little bit. In our experience, you're gonna have to get into the tune a little bit. You're gonna have to mess with linkages. You're gonna have to make sure your wiring's really good. You're gonna have to make sure the sensors are located right. And once you do all that stuff, these actually end up being really user-friendly and very trouble-free. I've had one on my C10 with a built 454 since 2017 or so, and I mean, it's really just set it and forget it after that initial setup. It's been really nice. So I don't knock these too bad, even though I get it. You do still have to mess with it sometimes. It's not totally worry-free, but for the most part, they're really nice. So we're gonna clean out the rest of the fuel system, get this thing back on the road, driving, and hopefully we'll have some fun. We'll do a nice little driving video for it. Another thing, if you've got a 700R4 transmission, this is not a kickdown cable. This is a TV cable, throttle valve cable. If you do not have this adjusted right, the car will go into fourth gear and lock the converter way too early, and then it's not gonna run. It's gonna run like absolute ass. And that's what was happening here. Because the throttle linkage is pushed so far back, in these Tri-5 Chevys, when they were originally a 6-cylinder car, the engine bay is different. When you come in later and put in a V8, you can see that distributor is sitting way far back. You can see a little bit of rubbing on the firewall from the air cleaners. Even though these air cleaners are offset forward, they just don't fit quite like they would if this was a factory V8 vehicle. Have some considerations there. So we're gonna adjust the geometry of the throttle linkage. We're gonna probably pull it up to the front carburetor or EFI unit and see if we can't get it to work off of that. That way, when we do our TV cable setup, we're not working in this much space. We're gonna be working in about that much space, and we can actually get that TV cable dialed in right so it shifts through all 4 gears and only locks up when it should. If you don't have that TV cable set up right, your 700R4 is gonna be junk. It's not gonna run right at all. And they can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to get dialed in. This is it. This is what we're working on. Just a sweet little car, nothing major. Couple little things here and there. Just a nice little tune-up for it, and should be out of here in the next week or so.